In just 28 seconds, one of Hollywood's most respected actors shut down a late-night host so hard that the entire studio fell into shocked silence. What started as a conversation about representation in cinema turned into a verbal takedown that had Stephen Colbert scrambling for control, while Samuel L. Jackson delivered truth bombs that left the audience gasping. By the time Jackson stormed off that stage, Colbert's credibility lay in ruins, and social media was already on fire. Before we dive into this explosive confrontation, make sure you subscribe to this channel. We bring you daily videos exposing Hollywood's darkest scandals, the moments they don't want you to see, and the confrontations that reveal who these celebrities really are when the cameras catch them off guard. Last night's episode of The Late Show was supposed to be a celebration. Samuel L. Jackson was there to promote his latest film. But what nobody expected was that this legendary actor was about to pull back the curtain on years of frustration with how Hollywood treats black artists. And Stephen Colbert, who has built his entire career on appearing to be on the right side of every issue, was about to get exposed for the performative ally he really is. The show started normally enough. Colbert did his usual monologue, got his laughs, and then introduced Jackson with the kind of over-the-top praise that these hosts always give. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the greatest actors of our generation, please welcome Samuel L. Jackson. The audience went wild. Jackson walked out wearing a sharp purple suit, gave the crowd a wave, and sat down across from Colbert. "Sam, great to have you back," Colbert said with that practiced smile of his. "Good to be here, Stephen," Jackson replied. But if you were paying attention, you could already hear something in his voice. A flatness, a lack of warmth. Colbert started with the usual softball questions. How was Jackson feeling? What was it like working with the director on his new film? Jackson gave short answers, professional but not particularly enthusiastic. Then Colbert made his first mistake. He leaned forward, with that serious face he does when he wants everyone to know he's about to say something important. "You know, Sam, I've been thinking a lot about representation in Hollywood lately," Colbert said. "And I just want to say how much I appreciate everything you've done to open doors for other black actors." Jackson's expression didn't change, but something shifted in the room. "Oh, really?" he said. "Tell me, Stephen, what exactly have I done?" Colbert looked momentarily confused, like he hadn't expected to actually have to answer that question. "Well, just your presence, your success, the roles you've taken. You've been a trailblazer." "A trailblazer," Jackson repeated slowly. He nodded, but there was no agreement in that nod. "That's interesting, because from where I'm sitting, I've been playing the same kind of roles for 30 years while people like you pat me on the back and tell me I'm opening doors." The audience got quiet. This wasn't going the way these interviews usually go. Colbert tried to laugh it off. "Come on, Sam, you've played some incredible characters. I mean, you're in the Marvel movies. You were in Pulp Fiction, Django Unchained. Right? Jackson cut him off. "Let me ask you something, Stephen. How many of those roles did I play where I wasn't either angry, violent, or saying somebody's catchphrase? How many times did I get to just be a regular human being, having a regular human experience?" Colbert shifted in his seat. You could see he was trying to think of an answer, trying to figure out where this was going. "I think you're being a bit hard on yourself. Those are iconic performances." "I'm not being hard on myself," Jackson said, and his voice was getting sharper now. "I'm being real about what Hollywood lets people who look like me do. And I'm being real about how people like you benefit from pretending like everything is fine while doing absolutely nothing to change it." "That's not fair," Colbert said, and now there was an edge in his voice too. "I've used my platform to talk about these issues constantly. I've had important conversations about race." "You've had conversations," Jackson interrupted him again. "You've talked. You've done your little segments where you shake your head at racism and your audience claps because they think they're good people for watching. But what have you actually done, Stephen? What have you risked? What have you sacrificed?" The studio was dead silent now. Camera operators were glancing at each other. The audience didn't know whether to react or just sit there. Colbert's smile was completely gone. "I think that's unfair," Colbert said, his voice tight. "I've been very vocal about supporting diversity in Hollywood." "Vocal," Jackson said, and he actually laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. "Yeah, you've been vocal. You know what would be more helpful than being vocal? Actually, hiring black writers for your show. Actually giving opportunities to people who don't look like everyone else in your writer's room. But instead, you bring people like me on, ask us to tell our stories about discrimination, and then you get credit for caring while your staff stays exactly as white as it's always been. Colbert's face was getting red now. We have a diverse staff, do you? Jackson challenged him. Because I looked it up before I came here tonight, Stephen. I did my homework. You've got, what, 2 black writers out of 20? That's diverse to you? We're always working to improve, Colbert said defensively. But you're coming on my show and attacking me personally when I've been an ally. There it is, Jackson's voice got louder. There's that word, ally. You know what? I'm tired of allies who only show up when it's convenient. I'm tired of allies who want credit for doing the bare minimum. You brought me here to talk about my movie, but really you wanted me to be your prop. You wanted to have your little moment where you get to look like you care about black folks. And then next week you'll bring on another black guest and do the same damn thing, and nothing will change. Colbert was getting angry now. You could see it in his eyes. You know what, Sam? If you have such a problem with how this show operates, maybe you shouldn't have agreed to come on. Maybe I shouldn't have, Jackson shot back. But I thought maybe, just maybe, we could have a real conversation for once. I thought maybe we could actually talk about the issues, instead of just performing for the cameras. But I can see now that's not what this is. This is just another performance. This is my show, Colbert said, and his voice was cold now. I've built something here that matters, that makes a difference. To who? Jackson demanded. To your viewers who already agree with everything you say? To the people who watch you so they can feel good about their politics without actually doing anything? You're not making a difference, Stephen. You're making people comfortable. The audience was completely still. Some people looked shocked. Others looked uncomfortable. A few people near the back were actually nodding along with Jackson. Colbert stood up. I don't think we need to continue this conversation. Jackson stood up too. Now who's running away from a difficult conversation? I'm not running away from anything, Colbert snapped. But I'm not going to sit here and be accused of not caring about these issues when I've dedicated my career to speaking truth to power. Jackson actually laughed at that. Speaking truth to power? Man, you're performing for power. Every night you do your show, you're carefully calibrated to not upset anyone who matters. You go after the easy targets, the people everyone already agrees are bad, and you call that bravery. But when someone actually challenges you, actually asks you to look at your own complicity, you can't handle it. I think you should leave, Colbert said. I think you're right, Jackson replied. Because this is pointless. You're never going to hear what I'm saying. You're too invested in seeing yourself as one of the good guys. Colbert pointed toward the exit. My producers will show you out. I know where the damn door is, Jackson said. He turned to the audience. Y'all deserve better than this. You deserve someone who's actually going to tell you the truth instead of making you feel good about yourselves. He started walking toward the exit, but Colbert wasn't done. You know what your problem is, Sam? You're angry at the wrong people. I'm not your enemy. Jackson stopped and turned around. You're right. You're not my enemy. You're something worse. You're someone who pretends to be on my side while benefiting from the exact same system that keeps people like me in our place. At least my enemies are honest about it. That's bullshit, Colbert said, and several people in the audience gasped because Colbert almost never swears on his show. I have fought for representation. I have amplified black voices. Amplified? Jackson interrupted. There's another favorite word. You amplify our voices, but you never actually give up the microphone, do you? You never step back and let someone else lead. You just bring us on as guests, let us say our piece, and then you go right back to business as usual. This is unbelievable, Colbert said. I invite you onto my show. I give you a platform to promote your film. There it is again. Jackson's voice was rising. You give me a platform. Like it's yours to give. Like I should be grateful that you're allowing me to speak. Man, I don't need your platform. I don't need your permission. I've been speaking for decades, and I'll keep speaking whether you invite me or not. Then why are you here? Colbert demanded. Because I thought maybe we could actually have an honest conversation about how this industry works. Jackson shot back. Because I'm tired of playing this game where we all pretend everything is fine while nothing changes. Because maybe Just maybe. I wanted to see if you were capable of hearing criticism without immediately getting defensive and making it all about your feelings." "My feelings?" Colbert's voice was getting louder now, too. "You come on my show and attack me personally, question my integrity, accuse me of being a racist." "I never called you a racist," Jackson said. "But it's interesting that's where your mind went. I said you benefit from a racist system and you're not doing enough to change it." "That's not the same thing as calling you a racist. But you can't hear the difference because you're so worried about being seen as one of the good guys that any criticism at all feels like an attack." Colbert took a step closer. "I have spent years using my platform to fight for justice." "Your version of justice," Jackson cut him off. "The safe version. The version that doesn't cost you anything. The version that makes your audience feel enlightened without actually challenging them to change their lives. That's not justice, Stephen. That's entertainment." "This is my show," Colbert repeated, his voice shaking with anger now. "I decide what gets said here." "And that right there is the problem," Jackson said. "You think you get to decide. You think you get to control the narrative. But you know what? I'm done playing by your rules. I'm done making white people comfortable. I'm done performing." "Nobody asked you to perform," Colbert said. "Everything we do on these shows is a performance," Jackson's voice echoed through the studio. "Every time a black guest comes on and shares their story about discrimination, it's a performance for white audiences who want to feel like they understand without actually having to do anything. Every time we smile and laugh at your jokes and play along with your format, it's a performance. And I'm tired of it." Colbert's hands were shaking. "If you hate these shows so much, if you hate this format so much, then don't come on them. Nobody forced you to be here." "You're right," Jackson said. "Nobody forced me. But the industry forces us to promote our projects this way. The industry says if you want your movie to succeed, you've got to go on these shows and be charming and play the game. So we do it because we don't have a choice. But that doesn't mean I can't call out how messed up it is." "You do have a choice," Colbert insisted. "You're Samuel L. Jackson. You're one of the biggest movie stars in the world. You can do whatever you want." "Can I?" Jackson asked. "Can I really? Because when I speak up about these issues, people call me angry. When I refuse to smile and be grateful, people say I'm difficult to work with. When I demand better representation, better roles, better treatment, I'm told I should be happy with what I've got. So, no, Stephen, I don't have as much choice as you think I do." The camera was still rolling. Nobody had cut to commercial. This was all happening live, and you could feel the tension in the room like electricity. Colbert crossed his arms. "I think you're projecting a lot onto me that isn't fair. I'm not responsible for Hollywood's problems." "You're part of Hollywood," Jackson said. "You're part of the system. And when you see the problems and you don't use your power to fix them, when you just talk about them instead, then yeah, you're responsible. Not for creating the problems, but for maintaining them." "I am not maintaining racism," Colbert said, his voice ice cold. "You're maintaining a system that allows racism to continue," Jackson corrected him. "There's a difference. You're not actively being racist. You're just not being actively anti-racist. And in a system this broken, being neutral means supporting the status quo." "This is ridiculous," Colbert said. "I'm done with this conversation." "You were done the minute I stopped playing along," Jackson said. "That's what you can't stand. Not that I'm criticizing the industry, but that I'm criticizing you. Because you've built your whole identity around being progressive, being woke, being one of the good ones. And you can't handle anyone suggesting that maybe you're not doing enough." "Get out," Colbert said, pointing to the exit again. "I'm going," Jackson said. "But before I do, let me say this to everyone watching." He turned to face the camera directly. "Stop letting these people make you feel good about doing nothing. Stop watching these shows and thinking you're making a difference just because you agree with the right opinions. If you actually care about change, about justice, about making things better, then you've got to do more than watch TV. You've got to actually act. You've got to be willing to be uncomfortable. And you've got to hold people accountable, even the people you like." "Are you done?" Colbert asked sarcastically. "Yeah, I'm done," Jackson said. He looked Colbert right in the eyes. "Good luck with your show, Stephen. I hope someday you figure out the difference between performing allyship and actually being an ally. But I'm not going to hold my breath. He turned and started walking toward the exit. The audience didn't know what to do. A few people started clapping, but it was scattered and uncertain. Most people just sat there in stunned silence. Colbert stood there for a moment, his face red, his jaw clenched. Then he turned to the camera. "We'll be right back after this commercial break." But Jackson was already gone, his footsteps echoing as he walked out of the studio and into the night, leaving behind a confrontation that nobody would forget anytime soon.